Hey guys, welcome back to the finals of the Pokemon Perfect ADV Tour Qualifier Tour. The next one will have its signups coming this coming weekend, so if you guys want to participate in this and have a chance to play against really good players like this, you can do so. It is open to the public. But let's see who wins the championship of this tour first. We just came off a really good, really close game one that ended up going the way of Asta. It's a best of three, so Asta can win the entire tournament in this game. And of course, Lanier, extremely talented, extremely capable, can easily send us to a game three. See how the second game plays out here. Lanier again on the bottom on the alt, my prehensile trunk. Asta on the top. A Salamence and a Zapdos lead, respectively. Quick pause here. So back in the day, a lot of the time Salamence would be choice banned when it leads. And it would stay in on this matchup because HP Ice was very uncommon. HP Grass was way, way, way more common because Celipert was just as common of a defensive core as Scoundbliss was. The metagame has since shifted. I'm talking 2012-ish. I'm talking way back. The metagame is not that anymore, and it is way more common now than it was then for Zapdos to have HP Ice. As such, I think Lanier probably needs to switch. Now, granted, it could just be an HP Grass T-Wave Zapdos, and it is possible that Salamence stays in, goes CB Rock Slide, nails the Zapdos, gets hit with a Thunder Wave back, if the Zapdos even survives. That's not so bad, but a lot of Zapdos, not all of them, bulky ones, but a lot of Zapdos are EV to even always live +1 Rock Slide, so I mean, that's kind of a losing proposition. Or way worse, it's an offensive, faster Zapdos, so like a plus speed nature or what have you, and it actually has HP Ice, and it simply one-hit KOs the Mence. So, risk versus reward, I think Lanier probably has to switch. So I would think we're looking at a switch and a T-Wave, or a switch and a Baton Pass, respectively. But either way, I think Lanier needs to get out of the way. And he agrees, it is a Blissey, and it's a switch and a switch. Interesting that Asta switches as opposed to Baton Passes, and I mean, why wouldn't you Baton Pass there? So it makes me think he doesn't have it. It makes me think it's a bulky Zap, and I think we're looking at some kind of TSS here. And let's pause there. Again, hidden power from Skarm, and I'll give you a little hint. That is not hidden power flying. That is not a thing anymore. Back in the day, because Baton Pass chains were still a thing, and Whirlwind was better against Soundproof Mr. Mime than Roar is, some people who were uber paranoid about Baton Pass would run HP Flying so they could run Whirlwind, because you cannot run Drill Peck with Whirlwind because they're both breeding moves. So, HP Flying plus Whirlwind was a thing. These days, running Drill Peck plus Roar is just better because Soundproof does not matter. So that makes Hidden Power Flying completely obsolete. As such, that is HP Ground. Asta has opted 2 games in a row to bring the YOLO Skarm. He must be thinking that Lanier knows his style well and is going to bust out a Magneton against him, which in fact he did in the first game. That also means that hacked there, the Fire Blast missing, is relevant because, again, YOLO Skarm is going to have damn close to max attack and max speed. That means it doesn't have an HP investment and it doesn't have a special defense investment. So that Fire Blast would have nailed it for like 80-something%, would have absolutely fried it. So that was actually really unlucky for Lanier because he would have done a ton of damage to that Skarm had he connected. So that's a bad and relevant piece of hacks early on against Lanier. So the Zapdos comes back in, and Lanier switches it up to Seismic Toss. He knows that now that Asta is aware of the Fire Blast, he's obviously not going to allow the Skarm to sit in and take it. It was a clear switch turn. And Zapdos shows Roar, so as if we didn't know already because he didn't Baton Pass, it now is a pretty safe bet that that is some kind of bulky Zapdos, probably a rest Zapdos, and he's going to get out of the way to Jirachi here, and Rock Slide going to miss, which is also unlucky, but that one doesn't matter nearly as much. It would not have done a whole heck of a lot. So we are looking at some kind of Superman TSS team here for Asta. And we are looking for at Lanier with, let's see, he's got Focus Punch here. Not gaining lefties. That could be a CB T-Tar. But I think even though he has shown Skarn Bliss, we are looking at a balanced team from Lanier versus a Superman TSS from Asta. So Rachi comes in. Spikes are down for both guys. Neither player has shown a spinner. Asta, I don't think, is going to have a spinner. We've already seen Zapdos, Skarmory, Flygon, so I mean, at least 3 of the pokes from Asta do not give a shit about spikes, and there very well could be a Gengar, an Aerodactyl, something like that in the back. Also, Fire Punch is going to immediately burn the Skarmory, so the luck in this game has not gone very well for Lanier. The Rock Slide miss doesn't matter, but for the sake of talking about bad luck, he missed. And the Fire Blast miss sucked, and the burn sucked. So Lanier definitely is not on the good end of the RNG early on in this game. That being said, I think Lanier is doing just fine. He did establish 3 layers of spikes, and he's not in any immediate danger, even though it sucks that the Skarm is burnt. So we'll see where the game goes. Rachi is going to switch into the spikes here. He did manage to pass a Wish. He hasn't shown anything other than Wish and Fire Punch, so he could be a Toxic defensive Rachi, it could be a Body Slam defensive Rachi, or it could be a traditional Calm Mind, Wish, Fire Punch, Psychic, or another attack, Jirachi. Wish and Thunder Wave respectively. Swampert coming in, so again, this looks like a balanced team for Lanier. I would think it's Last Poke Magneton once again, but that's not guaranteed the way that it more or less was in the previous game, but I think it's probably still Mag. And there is a Protect from Flygon here, which has shown Earthquake, which they're all going to have, so we only know about Earthquake Protect. It could have Toxic in the back. Could have Fire Blast, Rock Slide, HP Bug. I guess it could have Giga Drain, but that's pretty janky. That does not seem like something that Asta would do. And our suspicions are confirmed. We do have a Rest Zapdos here, and it is bulky. It is Rest Roar, Thunderbolt, and then last move is probably either Toxic or some kind of hidden power. It is not Last Poke Mag. It is Last Poke Aerodactyl this time. So yes, a balanced, physical-focused team for Lanier. And Skarm is going to come in, which is not going to be a good Aerodactyl counter, because again, YOLO Skarm, it is not bulky. Rock Slide 46% there, and he's got a good chance to get Paraflinched as well. That's exactly what happens. He's going to be fully paralyzed here, so Skarm does not get to do anything. And Asta looks like he's ready to fodder this, but he's going to switch it over to Jirachi now, stepping on the 3 layers of spikes. Rock Slide does an okay amount against the Rachi, 21%, but if he gets a Wish off, he's going to be just fine, especially if he happens to be a variant that also has Protect. But the Paraflinch kicks in here as well. This puts Rachi under a little bit of pressure. He actually needs to get the Wish off now. Or that's even worse. The luck turns around for Lanier. He gets some Paraflinch action, and he gets a critical hit, so the Jirachi is not able to get a crucial Wish off there. So Lanier now gets some hacks when he needs it, the same way that Asta did earlier on by keeping his Skarm alive with the Fire Blast miss. And all of a sudden, we've got ourselves a game. Rachi is typically a very important Pokemon on this kind of team because it's the makeshift special wall of the team when it does not have Blissey, which this very well may not. The last pokes for Asta are probably Tyranitar plus something like an Aerodactyl or a Gengar, I would think. So there's Rock Slide from Flygon. Really unlikely, I would say, that his last move is Giga Drain. He might have Toxic, but he doesn't want to risk the Ice Beam. I don't know that this is going to be the kind of Swampert that has Ice Beam. I think a Monopert makes more sense on this kind of team, but we'll see if I'm right. Aerodactyl switches in. Zapdos kills a Sleep turn. He's going to wake up next turn, but does he have the balls to stay in when a Rock Slide or a Double Edge would devastate him here? Flygon switches in at this point. That gets Rock Slid, 32%. Flygon, I believe we said, yeah, does have leftovers. So it looks like a bulky Flygon, which may mean that Asta doesn't have a bulky water. He may be using the Flygon in a similar role and not actually packing a Swampert or a Coon or a Milo or whatever it may be. There could still be a water there. Flygon plus like Milo, for example, is not that wild of a pairing. Those two do go together and form an anti-T-Tower core, but we'll see if Asta went for that. The benefit of having a bulky water with the Flygon, yes, Flygon handles something like a strictly physical DD Tower, yes, but it does not handle other threats like, say, a mixed Salamence would be a disaster for Asta. It would just plow through his team unless Asta has something like a Milotic in the back. So there is a Toxic from Zapdos, so the full moveset is revealed. He does not have Hidden Power. I mean, he hasn't actually, there we go, now he's shown Thunderbolt, but we knew that that was going to be there before he showed it. That was a move that was obviously there, whether it was Thunder or Thunderbolt. He clearly had an electric attack in the back, and he's going to go for it again. And Blissey is going to take the opportunity to soft-boiled. Could have actually killed the Zapdos there had he got Seismic Toss, but it would have basically left the Blissey for dead herself, so not a trade that Lanier wanted to make. T-Tar has shown actual nothing for Asta, so here is an opportunity to do all sorts of things. He's got lefties, we know that. He could Dragon Dance, he could sub, he could go for a Focus Punch on the switch. There are all sorts of opportunities. He could Ice Beam here. Hidden Power there is resisted, so that is either HP Bug or HP Grass, and Bug does not make a lot of sense to me given what Lanier has shown. What would Bug be trying to hit? What is the ideal thing that the Bug would try to hit? I mean, if you're trying to hit the opposing T-Tar, you just go for Earthquake, right? So that has got to be HP Grass for Asta, aimed at the Swampert. So we are looking at a special or mixed Tar from Asta, which I think makes sense because a special Tar, specifically with Crunch and Pursuit, wants Gengar out of the way, because Flygon in particular, but I mean also Zapdos to an extent, also Rachi to an extent, especially if it was a defensive, say like Toxic or Body Slam Rachi, those are things that really want Gengar to not be there. So from Asta's point of view, removing Gengar via the Crunch Pursuit Tar makes quite a bit of sense. And Swampert does, in fact, Surf Protect Toxic. That looks like a Mono Pert, meaning he will not have Earthquake or Ice Beam. He could still have Earthquake, but I think the last move is going to be Roar. I think that makes more sense. So the famous Mono Pert here. T-Tar is opting for the HP Grass. How much speed it has, there we go. T-Tar is gaining lefties first. But Asta is going to over-predict here and go for the Pursuit. He's going to get nailed by a Surf for doing so. He is going to have another opportunity here to go for the Pursuit if he thinks Lanier is going to switch now. Now, Lanier obviously is going to go for the Protect. They're both going to gain lefties. Again, we know that the T-Tar is faster. I mean, we know it anyway by the Pursuit Surf turn, but even if we didn't know, we can just do the lefties check, and we knew before that turn even happened that the T-Tar would be faster. He switches it up, goes Brick Break here. I think the goal there was to catch Blissey, thinking that Blissey would come in thinking that it's only a special Tar, when in fact we now know it is a mixed Tar. But Lanier did not go to Blissey there. He went to Salamence, so some good predictions here. So now Asta is trying to burn stall the Skarmory out. It is opting for Drill Peck for lack of anything better to do because he's already got his spikes down. The Drill Peck with the burn, which way reduces his attack, would do paltry damage, as you see here. 14%, who cares? Flygon is just going to be able to protect lefties that off in a blink. And now Asta is on the board. Lanier has a 5-4 lead. Last poke still unrevealed for Asta. Unclear what it is. I can see Aerodactyl. I can see Gengar. I can see Milotic. Maybe it's Coon. I mean, that makes sense with the Crunch Pursuit Tower. Oh, it is Coon. That makes sense with the Crunch Pursuit Tower because it wants Gengar gone. I mean, so do a lot of those other things that I listed. But yeah, it makes sense with the get rid of Gengar theme. And Toxic is going to be blocked by a Sub-Coon. Probably not what either of us expected. So the question now, is this an offensive Sub-Coon? Is this the old school Sub-Combine Surf Ice Beam Coon? Or is it the more new school, bulky, so 404 HP, Sub-Combine Surf Rest Coon? Or instead of Rest, it could have Roar. But this could actually be a bulkier Coon. And we're going to find out right here. Seismic Toss does not break the sub, so those are 101 HP subs made by a 404 HP Coon. And it's putting the hurt on Bliss. Blissey obligated to soft-boiled here. If she did not, she would have died to the subsequent Surf, which is doing 34% here at +2. At this point, Asta is going to Calm Mind again. Seismic Toss, of course, is going to break the sub, which only had that one hit point left. There is nothing preventing Asta from going for another sub if that's what he wants to do, but instead he opts for the aggressive route of Surf, and that puts Lanier in a bit of a tough spot. He goes for Seismic Toss, and Blissey would die to the follow-up Surf should she stay in. And that's what occurs. But this is more or less a trade because now Aerodactyl can revenge kill. Asta can't switch out unless he wants to just use the Coon as fodder, because the next time it comes in on spikes, it'll simply die to the spikes in the sand. Asta seems to be aware of that, and he's going to fodder it off to Double Edge. So this brings us to a 2-4 situation. Flygon comes in now. Salamence on its deathbed is going to come in, get the Intimidate off. And it's actually a switch from Asta to Tyranitar, but the Salamence is going to be taken out one way or another via the sand. So now it's going to be up to Lanier when he wants to switch into the Tyranitar. He decides the Aerodactyl. That makes sense to me. And he does the calc and realizes that despite the normal resist, Double Edge will be enough. So this leaves Asta with only the Flygon against Aerodactyl, Swampert, and T-Tar. Double Edge 76% is devastating. Rock Slide there needed to crit for there to be any chance in hell. It is not a crit. And Double Edge from Lanier's Aerodactyl is going to send us to a decisive Game 3. Really, really good set so far. Obviously, if you watch the first two games, you absolutely cannot miss that third game. Leave me a thumbs up here if you've been enjoying this series. Game 3 is, of course, coming up next.